If you have employees, your insurance needs change fast. This checklist covers the core employer policies most businesses need, plus the common gaps that hurt the most when something actually happens. Hi, I'm Marty with JMW Insurance Solutions. We help business owners protect what they've built, including building a clean insurance package for employers that avoids the gaps that show up at the worst possible time. When you hire employees, you take on a new layer of responsibility and a new layer of risk. That's completely normal. The key is making sure your coverage evolves with your business. Here's a practical checklist of the core coverages most employers should review, and the gaps that commonly appear. The first is workers' compensation, which is required in most situations. Workers' comp protects your employees and protects the business from lawsuits related to workplace injuries. The gaps that show up most often are incorrect class codes, misreported payroll, no safety or injury reporting procedures in place, and surprise audits at the end of the year. Audit your class codes and payroll annually. The second is general liability. This covers third-party bodily injury and property damage for customers, visitors, and anyone else who interacts with your business. The common gaps are inadequate limits for the type of work you do, contracts that require higher limits than you're actually carrying, and missing additional insured requirements. Review your contracts and confirm your liability structure matches what's being asked of you. The third is commercial property and business interruption. If your business depends on a physical location, equipment, or inventory, property coverage matters. Business interruption protects your cash flow during a period of forced downtime. The gaps that hurt most are limits set too low, missing business interruption or extra expense coverage, off-premises tools and equipment that aren't addressed, and valuation issues, particularly the difference between actual cash value and replacement cost. Confirm your limits and make sure you have meaningful downtime protection. The fourth is commercial auto and hired and non-owned auto coverage. If your business has vehicles or if employees ever drive their personal vehicles for work purposes, auto exposure can create major liability. The gaps here are personal policies being used for business exposure, missing hired and non-owned coverage, limits that are too low for the level of business risk, and no formal driver standards. Confirm your driver policies and the correct coverage type for how your business actually operates. The fifth is EPLI, Employment Practices Liability Insurance. This protects against employment-related claims like wrongful termination, discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. The biggest gaps are businesses assuming that good intentions mean no claims, poor documentation practices, and inconsistent policy enforcement. If you have employees and want protection against legal defense costs, EPLI deserves a serious look. The sixth is cyber coverage. If you store employee data, payroll data, or customer data, and most businesses do, cyber exposure is real. The gaps that come up most are no incident response plan, no multi-factor authentication on email accounts, and no coverage for social engineering or fraud. Implement basic cyber hygiene and confirm what your coverage options actually are. The seventh is umbrella liability, particularly for higher risk employers. Umbrella adds additional liability limits above your primary policies. The gap here is businesses underestimating how severe a single claim can be. One serious incident can exceed basic limits quickly. If you have significant auto exposure, job site risk, or higher revenue, an umbrella policy deserves consideration. Now let me tell you the gaps I see cause the most pain. Workers' comp misclassification and payroll issues, missing EPLI, inadequate business interruption coverage, hired and non-owned auto that simply isn't there, and cyber and fraud exposure that gets ignored until it's too late. These gaps don't announce themselves. They show up when something goes wrong, and then they show up painfully. Hiring employees is a growth milestone. Your insurance package should match that milestone. When it does, you operate with confidence and stability, and you protect the business you're working hard to build. If you'd like us to do a quick employer coverage review and confirm you have the right core policies in place, visit jmwinsuranceSolutions.com/business-insurance.